let's talk a little bit about this new announcement where you're going to increase your Bitcoin holdings beyond the initial amount that you had stated back during the April launch. This would make you the third largest corporate holder of Bitcoin after Strategy and Mara. Is there a long-term strategy here, like to take over Strategy's role as the biggest holder or maybe even the second biggest holder and push Mara out of the way?
Of course. I mean, listen, I think the capital markets will get to know me as many things, one of which is a competitor. I'm never going to sit up here and say I want to be second. So I think us at 21, we have a lot of confidence that we can do pretty much anything. The board, if you think about, consists of myself, Tether, and SoftBank. That's a lot of access to capital, a lot of technological experience, and a lot of Bitcoin experience. So we're confident. First step is getting approved, but the notion that we've already been able to accumulate over 43,000 Bitcoin with an average price of just over 87,000. So we now own over $5 billion of Bitcoin, and we have an unrealized gain of already over $1.3 billion. So a pretty small team and a pretty young company that's already made over $1 billion. So a lot of progress so far, and I think it's just the beginning.
And this is your main business. You're introducing a performance metric as well called BPS, Bitcoin per share. Can you just briefly explain that?
Yes, I mean, it's obviously a rip on earnings per share, but listen, we're a Bitcoin company all the way to our core. That's even how we measure our performance. In my opinion, as a Bitcoiner, measuring your performance in dollars is not that impressive. My coffee's gone up in dollar terms. This chair has gone up in dollar terms. So is the S&P, so is the Mag 7, so is Bitcoin. Everything goes up in dollar terms because fiat continues to get debased. So what we want to measure ourselves in is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the new hurdle rate. Can you be performant in Bitcoin terms? And the message I want to give to our existing shareholders and future shareholders is we want our shareholders to get wealthier in Bitcoin terms. And so instead of measuring earnings per share in dollars, we want to measure in Bitcoin. Can we grow the Bitcoin per share that you're exposed to as a shareholder of the business? That's why we created the metric.
What's the end game for you? Is it just to buy as much Bitcoin as you can and hold it for as long as possible and never sell it?
That's one of the goals, yes. But I think what makes us different than a lot of these other businesses is we plan to build Bitcoin products as well. I mean, the founding group is Tether and myself. I founded and lead Strike is one of the bigger Bitcoin financial services firms in the world. Tether, obviously, is one of the most impressive companies in the history of humanity, but specifically in building massive cash flows within the space. So Paulo and I, before we were CEOs, we were engineers. We built a lot of products. And so we plan to not only acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, raising capital in all sorts of deep capital pools, but also build products, build technology, build tools. I think when people eventually think of 21, it's are they a competitor to Coinbase? Are they a competitor to Strategy? For us, why not both? We think we have that potential.
Do you envision a future where Bitcoin treasury companies such as Strategy, Mara, and you guys end up buying so much Bitcoin that there really isn't actually much left out there on the open market for people to trade? After all, it is a fixed number of Bitcoin, so no more will be created once it reaches that number.
Right. You know what's fascinating about the asset, and it's not intuitive because it's so rare, is that, to your point, it is definitively scarce. So if everyone in the world wanted an iPhone, Apple could make more. If everyone in the world wanted a McDonald's cheeseburger, McDonald's could make more. The fact that Bitcoin cannot increase its supply means the new supply comes from the market. If you want more Bitcoin, you don't go to the Bitcoin factory to get one. You have to go up in price. Is there enough Bitcoin for me at 120,000? No. Okay, 130, 140, 150. So I tell you what, there's always Bitcoin available. Just depends on what you're willing to pay for it. And so what I think will happen is this price will continue to discover higher because Bitcoin is the scarcest thing. It's inelastic to the amount of demand that searches for it. So the amount of buying power that we're seeing from the capital markets, from the ETFs, and potentially from nation states like the United States, I think they'll find the supply they're looking for. They're just going to have to go get it at a higher price.
Would you expand to other digital coins, for instance, become a treasury company for Ether or Solana or something else?
Absolutely not. And I'll tell you guys why. I made you laugh there,
yeah, because you guys are all maxis. Like, you talk to somebody who has an Ether treasury company, and they'd say the same thing about Bitcoin.
Yeah, so
you can't mix the two ever?
Well, little history lesson. The term maxi was actually invented by Vitalik Buterin. It was a diss. It was slander. You know, I now take it as a compliment. But to be clear, I don't self-prescribe that. Little background on my opinion. Okay, us humans own a little over $900 trillion worth of stuff. currencies, sovereign debt, real estate, precious metals, fine art, all of the things that we collectively own as a species. About half of that, so call it $400 to $500 trillion worth of it, we're using to save money. Right? You own the $10 million art painting not to put on your wall so your toddler can throw spaghetti at it and ruin it. You own it because you want to sell it for $11 million in the future. You own the real estate not to consume it because you're living in it, but because you're trying to save and build a real estate portfolio. So that the amount of wealth humans have created that they want to bring with them tomorrow and save into the future is about $400 to $500 trillion. To me, that's what Bitcoin's going after. It's that pristine store of value. It's that pure money. Right? What is Ethereum? What is Dogecoin? What is Solana? To me, I don't know. At best, a technology. Are these things going after Apple, Amazon? If they are, let's go out and give Ethereum credit that I don't think it deserves and say it's going to achieve what Amazon has achieved. Okay, $2 trillion, $3 trillion worth of value to society. Reasonable, nice, a new cool tech stock, and that's if they go on to achieve that. If Bitcoin goes on to achieve a small fraction of the $400 to $500 trillion that humans are looking to bring with them tomorrow, we're talking about tens of trillions of dollars of appreciation. So it's an orders of magnitude larger problem Bitcoin's going after. It's an orders of magnitude sounder bedrock to build a treasury. I do not want to build a treasury on potentially the next Amazon. I want to build a treasury on the new gold, on the new sovereign debt, on the new currency, on the new dollar. So that, for me, our shareholders should know I will never own another asset outside Bitcoin.
So Bitcoin purist or maxi, as Tim just reminded us. Jack, you call yourself the first ever Bitcoin native company that expects to be publicly listed. Any thoughts on what stock exchange? Would it be NYSE? Would it be NASDAQ? Could it even be, let's say, the Texas Stock Exchange, which will begin listings at the end of 2026?
We want to do what's best for Bitcoin and our shareholders. We're open to all relationships that help us achieve that. That's our banking partners, that's the exchanges. I mean, for us, it's about being performant in Bitcoin terms and serving the Bitcoin network and growing alongside of it. And yeah, for us being a Bitcoin native business, again, we didn't pivot from an old business model. We aren't a company that needs a new direction. We are Bitcoiners. We've been in this space for over a decade, and so we're native to our metrics, to our core, to our operating business, and that's what we mean. And whatever partners along the way, exchanges, banks that want to support us on our mission, I'm happy to work with them.
Jack, still a lot of skeptics out there who might watch this and say, wait a second, is the point of Bitcoin just for the people who have it now to get wealthier and wealthier? The largest holders of Marathon, of you guys, and of Strategy, convince them that there is a use case beyond just buying and holding, that this is a useful technology?
Well, I think the use case for Bitcoin from the highest level possible is I've created value and I want to keep it. That's it. I got a chuckle out of you. That's true. I got up out of bed. I sacrificed. I worked. I commuted. I did tasks. I created products. I created value for those around me. I want to keep that value.
But even though it's called a cryptocurrency, it's not used widespread as a currency. It's used as something that will accumulate or that people think will accumulate in value.
Yes, I think the definitions of currency and money and how we think of medium of exchange, store of value, I think it gets too complicated. And sometimes Bitcoin is so simple that people don't believe it can be that simple. The reality is money is what you acquire in exchange for your effort, your time, your energy. It's our time and energy in abstracted form. And I exchange my work hours for it so that I can later get the stuff I need in my life. I want to go to Whole Foods and get a steak. I want to go on vacation. I need to pay rent. That's what money's for, is to allow me to create value and take it with me tomorrow. And that's the use case. And today, it's increasingly difficult to achieve that. I can't save it in dollars. We all know that. Okay, you're going to force me to understand Japanese central bank monetary policy? You're going to force me to understand what tech stocks to pick? No, how about something that's definitively scarce, no one can inflate, I can store for free, I can move cheaply, and that I could put it in my brain. And that's the use case, and we all have that use case. Nation state, corporations, families, individuals. Simply put, I think everyone can find value in a technology that is open source and solve that for everybody.